Howdy ho, Andrew here, aka Kelf here. Welcome to the Onion Buns and welcome to my Sunday gaming video. So we're going to depart from talking about MMORPGs and all that and go into a little bit of news. Now, everybody knows or should know by now that Bioware, hence the background, was sold to Saudi Arabia and Jared Kushner for $55 billion. And, you might be saying to yourself, 55 billion, that's with a B, just like Bioware. To be honest, if they had sold this company, EA, even 10 years ago, this company would be worth more than $55 billion. But EA has not been good. And Bioware is one of the key reasons why it's not been good for a while now. And Bioware is what I want to focus in on. Because, truth be told, I don't play EA games. I'm not a sports guy. Or I should qualify that as before my back problems, I was a sports guy, but I played sports. Not on the computer, but in real life. I played basketball, I played volleyball, I played hockey, I played tennis, I played golf, and I have trophies for all of this stuff. So I'm not bragging about it. I wasn't the best, but I wasn't the worst. And so I'm not a computer sports guy. Never have been. The one exception was actually two exceptions, was the old Lynx games. I'm trying to remember now. I think it was Lynx 386 or something like that. It was on, I believe I had a 486 at the time. And the golf game was immaculate. You got the Lynx game, and then you got all the different courses from PGA courses from all over the world. And the mechanics for the game were excellent, and it was a lot of fun. And sorry, something in my eye. And the other one was baseball. I hardball, I think it was called, or something. Again, 486. So we're talking a long time ago. And a roommate of mine and I, we sat and we played an entire baseball season, which is god awful long. And we made a bunch of side bets: who had the most home runs, who stole the most bases, who had the most wins, and blah 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 blah. And we had a contest playing. He played the Blue Jays, and I played Atlanta. And yeah, we had a contest going, and we played an entire season, going head to head a couple of times, and then the rest of the time it was single player. I played against the computer, and then he'd play against the computer, and then at the end we came down to the World Series, and it was a lot of fun, and I came out of $10 ahead. Woo woo! How even was it? If one person had run away on our betting, they could have walked away with around $200. But it was so even that I won $10. So anyway, those are the only two sports games. I'm a big hockey fan. You watch my channel at all, I do a weekly episode recap of the Edmonton Oilers. I do a recap the day after every single Oilers game, and I put out shorts. I cut up the weekly recap into 7 shorts and put out shorts over the week, each day of the week. So I'm a big hockey fan, yet I never got into the computer hockey simulators. It just wasn't for me. So football, hockey, all of that, sports games are their big money maker, and they just never appealed to me. As I've said many a times, I'm an RPG player. That is my go-to. And Bioware was my favorite studio for a long time, until EA got their hands on it. And then it went downhill. And it kept going downhill. And kept going downhill. And then at about Mass Effect 3 was probably the last good Bioware game ever made. Now, I got some buddies that argue with me on this. They say they didn't like Mass Effect 3 either. Oh well, to each their own. Everyone's got their own tastes. I liked Mass Effect 3. I did. I liked it more than 2, to be honest. Because 2 was a third-person shooter more than an RPG. It had great characters. And the story wasn't fantastic. Like that final fighting that cyborg collector or whatever the hell it was just a stupid end boss. But it was an enjoyable game all the same. It just, if I'm being honest, I go Mass Effect 1 was the best, then Mass Effect 3, then Mass Effect 2, because Mass Effect 3, though it had a lot of problems, it tried to reintroduce RPG elements. And again, I'm an RPG player, so I appreciated them trying to reintroduce Mass Effect or reintroduce RPG elements, because Mass Effect 2 had stripped out so many RPG elements from the game. So anyway, Saudi Arabia has bought EA for $55 billion. And, they're $20 billion in debt, so they need to make back some money. But I really don't want to talk about that, because everybody's talked about that. And again, other than Bioware, it really doesn't matter to me, because Bioware is really the only studio in EA that I pay any attention to. And even that's kind of been on, that has been after Mass Effect 3. I tried Mass Effect Andromeda and I was not impressed by it. Buddy dragged me into Mass Effect or into Anthem, and we both hated that game. I tried Dragon Age 2, didn't like it. Tried Dragon Age Inquisition. I've never been able to finish it. I've tried like 8 to 10 times, and I just hit a certain point, and it's like, okay, I'm done. I don't like these companions. I want to kill them. I wanted to kill every companion in Dragon Age Inquisition. None of them clicked with me. And that was the foretelling of bad writing that came to affect the Bioware studio. And then the culmination, obviously, is the absolutely terrible game, which I did not play and I will never play, Dragon Age Veilguard. But I've seen all the videos and everything on it, and I've seen clips on it, and it's just an atrocity. And that's the problem, is Bioware became a activist studio, not a gaming studio, not an RPG studio. All the creative people that made such amazing games like Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, Jade Empire, Neverwinter Nights, Baldur's Gate, Dragon Age Origins. These are some of my favorite titles of all time, and all of the people that made those left the studio after EA bought them. And they brought in activists, left-wing activists, and they ruined the studio. So that's what I want to talk about today, because there is a theory going on about their speculation that EA, the Saudi-owned EA, is going to sell off Bioware. And I find that interesting. Okay, first off, that's being pushed by the current head guy of Bioware, who is an activist himself. And here's a picture of him. I mean, yeah, take a look at him. Doesn't it say it all? So he wants Saudi to sell off Bioware so that him and his other activists can keep putting out slop that nobody buys, because they know the Saudis are not going to allow them to keep pushing out this slop, this activist left-wing slop that they've been pushing out for over a decade now. And that got people talking. Is EA looking to sell off Bioware? Now, there's two rules of thumb to this, in my opinion. One, they could sell Bioware, but does that come with the IPs, or does it just the company? I can't imagine the company's worth anything. I really can't. It's been failure after failure after failure. Losing money hand over fist. Like, the Bioware failures are one of the reasons EA was up for sale. This was supposed to be their big RPG company that made them money hand over fist. And once Mass Effect 3 ended, it's been slop. You know, there's some rumors about Dragon Age Inquisition making some money, but again, I don't see it personally because, again, I'm an RPG player and I couldn't finish that damn game. And I consider myself to be a very middle of the road RPG player. You know, I'm not a elitist, but I'm not an activist. And you just look at I couldn't finish Inquisition. I hated my companions. I really can't stress that enough. I bought that game day one because Dragon Age Origins is one of my favorite games of all time. I did not like Dragon Age 2 with that wolf character. The reason I didn't like it was one thing. See, in Dragon Age Origins, you travel, you talk to your companions, you build camaraderie, and you hear their backstories. But you do that out in the field. So while you're talking, you're in the field, you're adventuring. Dragon Age 2 came out and they changed it to you could only talk to them in camp. Well, that sucks because part of the draw of Mass Effect 1 and Dragon Age Origins was listening to the chatter between your companions while you were out in the field. Same with Knights of the Old Republic. You had different companions talked different topics to each other while you were out in the field. So it was entertaining, it was interesting, you got the backstory, and you weren't just sitting at a camp going, okay, I'll talk to you, then I'll talk to you, then I'll talk. They were talking to each other. When Dragon Age 2 came out, they did away with that. You can only talk to companions in the camp, and the companions didn't talk to each other, you just talked to the companion. And I really didn't like that design, and also didn't like the wolf character, the main character. So, but then Dragon Age Inquisition came out, and they were promising to fix all of this, and they did fix some of that. I'll grant them that. But what they didn't do was have any interesting companions. Like these companions were absolutely brutal. The dwarf, biggest claim to fame is he was writing bad love stories. I'm sorry, that's not interesting to me. That's just not interesting. You know, you had the girl boss, I don't even remember what her name was, the knight. You had the, I'm not even going to go through them. They were just terrible companions, all of them. And then they did the unthinkable. Is one of my favorite companions in Dragon Age Origins was Liliana. And in Dragon Age Inquisition, they absolutely destroyed Liliana. They turned her into a uncharismatic, unlikable, hardened, miserable taskmaster that sat in the castle, and there was nothing appealing about her. It was just, I honestly thought they intentionally destroyed the character. And that just made me dislike the game even more. So, like I said, I think the last good Bioware game was Mass Effect 3. And then everything after that has been slop. Absolute slop. And it just got worse and worse and worse on the left-wing activism. Till you get to Veilguard, where, one of the characters' name is Tash, and on the internet everyone calls it Trash, and it fits. You know, it was a horrible game. Horrible, absolutely terrible. Like, I have friends that are left wing, and they hated the game. You know, so what does that tell you if even the left wingers don't like the game? So it's just Bioware has been a shell of itself, and it's been going downhill fast. So I can't see Bioware, the studio, being worth anything. If anyone was to buy it, it would be to pick up the IPs. But I have a problem with that because the Saudi group bought EA for $55 billion, and $20 billion of that is debt that they were looking to pay off. Well, Mass Effect, when written properly, that's huge money. Dragon Age. I mean, yeah, okay, there is some people that think the Dragon Age IP is dead and finished. I don't. I think if you get real writers, real creative, that don't push left-wing propaganda, I think you can reestablish the Dragon Age franchise. Go back to the roots. Like, I think one of the biggest mistakes they made in Dragon Age after Origins was they stopped talking about the Warders. They stopped focusing on the Warders. They had money. That was money. They had a hit. Dragon Age 2 should have been the continuation of Dragon Age Origins. It really should have been. But for some reason, EA took it in a completely different route. They allowed Bioware to just bastardize the entire franchise, and it self-destructed. But I still think if you take the original concept of Dragon Age and you act like 2, Inquisition, Veilguard did not exist, and you just came up with Dragon Age Origins Part 2, I think there's money there for them. So, and then there's Jade Empire. I've wanted a Jade Empire 2 for a long, long, long time. And I've read online that other people have been asking for this too. So there's money there. And then, of course, you saw Baldur's Gate 3, which was done not by Bioware, was a massive success. But it's still, as far as I know, it's still an EA IP. They just licensed it out to Larian to do Baldur's Gate 3. They could bring it back in-house, and especially coming off of Baldur's Gate 3, that is money. So I just can't see them selling the IPs with Bioware. I can definitely see them selling Bioware because there's no value in that studio. That studio is absolutely worthless now, which is such a sad thing to say because there was a time Bioware was the pinnacle of RPG studios. Like The Witcher exists because of the old Bioware studio. They built Neverwinter Nights, and they licensed the Neverwinter Nights engine, I forget what it's called now, to CD Projekt Red for their first Witcher game. And CD Projekt Red got absolutely everything they could get out of that engine. Like, you compare Neverwinter Nights by BioWare to what The Witcher 1 was, and even though the graphics are now dated for The Witcher 1, it's like, you wouldn't believe it's the same engine. Like, they got everything you could possibly get out of that engine. But it was all made possible because of BioWare, the pre-EA BioWare. So, yeah, I just can't see them selling off the IPs. I really can't. It makes no financial sense to me to sell off the IPs. But it makes perfect financial sense to me to sell off BioWare, the studio, the employees of the studio, because, you know, as much as you dislike to say this, they're worthless. It's like, if they can't sell it off to somebody for even a couple dollars, I see BioWare being shuttered. And EA getting other studios like Larian to continue on the Mass Effect, Dragon Age, Jade Empire, Knights of the Old Republic. Well, maybe not Knights of the Old Republic because that involves Star Wars, and we all know what a mess Star Wars is under Disney, so maybe that one won't happen. But you get what I'm saying is they have these IPs that are cash, and with a $20 billion debt, they want to put out hits. Mass Effect, when done properly, is still probably one of the premier RPGs franchises out there when done properly. Andromeda heard it. Make no mistake about it. The slop that Bioware put out in Andromeda reduced the value of Mass Effect. They need to return to what made it great. The storytelling, the characters. Get away from the real world politics and just get into great storytelling, great characters, great environments, high adrenaline, and go. And it, like I said, it's the same with Dragon Age Origins or the Dragon Age franchise. Just forget about 2, forget about Inquisition, forget about Wolfguard, and just go back to Dragon Age Origins and what made that game so special, and then build off that. Jade Empire. Like I said, I've always wanted a Jade Empire 2. Always. I love that game. It is in my top 20 games of all time. And I love that game, and I would be there with bells on to buy a Jade Empire 2 as long as I could trust the studio making it, because I can't trust the modern day Bioware, and I don't trust the EA. Like, I'm not going to prejudge the Saudi EA, but I do not trust EA that they bought from. You know, I have a hard and fast rule for myself that I will not pay over $20 for an EA game, and that $20 has to include all of the DLC. Because EA went so far into the monetization, they would design a game and then they'd cut parts out and they'd sell it to you as DLC. And I find that just so unethical, honestly. No, give me the full game. If you want to create a DLC afterwards, like Dragon Age Origins, perfect example. They did the game and then EA actually did cut parts out of it, but we'll just skip that part. But they did the game, and then they came out with Liliana's Song, which was an extension off the game that told her story. And then they came out with the Awakenings expansion. So they were making money, and that's how you do it, is you come out with expansions and you come out with standalone DLCs, but you don't gut the core game. You deliver a full game. And yeah, this is why I disliked EA so much, is they did this all the time, is they would develop a game and then they'd cut out parts. And they're like, oh, well, if you want to play this part, you got to pay this extra $10 or $20. And if you want to do this part, you got to pay this and you got to pay that. It's like, you know, buddy, I'll pay the $80 for the game, but I expect a full game. And no, I'm not going to pay you $180, $200 grand total for a video game. I'm just not going to do it. I will wait 1, 2, 3 years if I have to and get it at $20, which includes all the DLCs. You could have got me to buy it at $80, but you did dishonest practices, so now I'm only willing to pay $20. And that's, I think, honestly, I think that's part of the reason why EA, not the Saudi EA, but the EA that the Saudis bought from, ended up suffering so much, is people got fed up with their greed and finally just stopped buying it. You know, this is my own personal stance, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if other people did the same thing, approached it the same way. So the question is, and you can feel free to come into the comments and tell me, what do you think is going to happen? I think they are either going to sell the Bioware studio without the IPs for pennies on the dollar, or they are going to shutter the studio completely and just lay everybody off. Because the modern day Bioware studio has no value. It's killed itself, for lack of a better term. Destroyed itself. It pushed real world left-wing politics over proper game development, proper game storytelling, and over relatable companions that you want to adventure with. Like I said, I've never played Veilguard, but I've seen a lot of clips and I've seen the companions, and I don't want to play with any of them. I knew that immediately. And Inquisition, same thing. I wanted to kill all my companions. I just freaking hated them all. None of them served any purpose to me. Andromeda, same thing. Wanted to kill all of my companions. Did not like any of them. You know, because they were there for political reasons. They weren't there for making the game better. And we need to get back to making these games better. And Bioware is not the only one guilty of this. They're just the ones that are in the news right now. A lot of studios are losing money because they keep pushing this crap. Just like I always go on about Starfield. I hated the companions in Starfield. Really did. You know, just nothing about them appealed to me. They weren't interesting to me. They were just, you know, whatever. It's like, I still want to play Starfield, but the companions, they don't draw me in. They honestly might be part of the reason why I have such a hard time playing Starfield. Is I want companions. Like, I think back to Mass Effect. I am the biggest Rex fanboy out there. I freaking loved Rex, the Krogan. But one of my favorite activities, like I bought Mass Effect 1 on disc when it first came out. Like actually, I think I may have pre-ordered it. It's been a while. And one of my favorite activities there, I would just ride elevators. I would grab 2 companions and I'd go stand in the elevator and I'd ride up and down and I'd listen to them talk. Knights of the Old Republic, same thing. I'd grab Bastila and Karth or any of the companions. For some reason, their names are escaping me at the moment. But I'd grab the companions and I'd go walk on Dantooine or something and listen to them bicker and everything. And it was fantastic because it built chemistry. There was no chemistry in Andromeda. There was no chemistry in Inquisition. There was no chemistry in Anthem, even though that wasn't a companion. Like, I don't know how many people played Anthem, but the guy that helps you early on, talks you through missions, ends up turning on you. Well, I hated him so much that I couldn't even make it to the point of the game where he turned on us. I just quit the game. It's like, no, I can't listen to this idiot in my headset anymore. You know, he's ruined the game for me. You know, and that's all on writing. And that is what the problem is with Bioware. The modern day Bioware is, again, they're filled with activists, political activists. They're not filled with fantasy writers or sci-fi writers. They're not making the experience enjoyable and energetic and drawing you in. And quite the opposite, they're pushing you away. So, yeah, I don't see the Bioware studio being worth anything. I just don't see it. Just like they would have to add the IPs, and I can't see that because, again, these IPs are money, and EA, the new EA, paid a ton of money to get this studio or to get EA. So I can't see them giving up high potential IPs just to make this studio a little more profitable in a sale. I just don't see it. What I see happening, as I said, is the Saudis will hold on to the IPs, but they will either look to sell Bioware, which I don't think there's going to be any big buyers if there's no IPs attached to it. And then ultimately they'll just scuttle the studio and, you know, best future endeavors if you can find work, which a number of these activist developers are having a hard time finding work nowadays because the woke games are not selling. Like, they've been pushing it for a decade now, and in the RPGs, they've been going downhill and downhill and downhill, and nobody's buying it. It's crap, and nobody's buying it, and so these guys are not getting hired. So maybe they got to start applying at McDonald's or something. But yeah, so that's what I wanted to talk about. It's like, what do you think? I'd be very interested to hear what everybody thinks, because, like I said, I don't see it working out. I know that this Daryl guy is trying to float the idea that there's buyers for Bioware, and these buyers will give Daryl and his minions of political activists free rein to continue to make the slop that they have been making, because, damn it, there's a market out there. Sure, we haven't made a profit on a single game we made, but damn it, there's a market out there for our slop. No, there isn't. There isn't. The small market there is for their slop is not enough to cover the costs of production. It's like Hollywood. Like, Hollywood is going down the same route. They've been pushing out slop and nobody's going. We're seeing movie or TV shows fail after because they're pushing political slop rather than focusing on strong storytelling, strong characters, and escapism. And in the end, that's what RPGs are, and Hollywood is. It's escapism. We want to escape the real world, even if it's for 2 hours in the movies or 40 hours in a computer game. We want to escape the real world. We don't want the real world's activists hitting us over the head with their sledgehammers saying, you must think like we do. One of us. No, we're not a Simpson cartoon, for Christ's sakes. So, yeah, I'm going to be very interested to see how this plays out. As I've said repeatedly in this video, my take is they're going to look for a buyer for Bioware, but they're not going to include the IPs, which means there's going to be no buyer for Bioware, which means the studio will get shuttered, and all of the political activists that are currently working in Bioware will be unemployed looking for new work. And yeah, I don't think they're going to find it, because more and more studios are reverting. Hell, more and more Hollywood is reverting now. Like, the DEI days are over. And you can blame Trump for that, but it's not on Trump. We're talking finances here, plain and simple. And DEI is not selling. As the old saying goes, go woke, go broke. And these companies have been going broke. Simple as that. So tell me, come in the comments and tell me what you think. What are your predictions? How do you think this is going to play out? I'd be very interested to hear everybody's opinion on this. And that's my video for this week. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, a subscribe, and a share. I'm trying to grow my channel, and a like, a subscribe, and a share does me wonders, and I do appreciate it. It takes 1 second to subscribe, costs you absolutely nothing, helps me immensely. Just hit the subscribe button on the bottom of the screen. Always feel free to leave a comment. As I've been begging you all video long, leave me your comments. Tell me how you think this is going to play out. I'd be really interested. You don't have to agree with me. It's more interesting if you don't. But tell me how you think this is going to play out and why. Don't just say, well, they're going to be super successful. I want to know why you think this. Give me a valid reason, a thought out reason. I've given you mine in this video. Now give me a valid, thought out reason why you think your version is going to happen. There's no right or wrong answer. Like, I don't know how this is going to play out. I just have my suspicions how it's going to play out. So give me your ideas. Also, when you leave a comment, it really does help me with the YouTube algorithm and getting more eyes on my videos. So, as always, pew, 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 and shit. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.